Ministers are warned the cheapest is not necessarily the best amid storm over awarding the contract for Brexit blue passports to a French firm. Shadow Home Secretary Diane Abbott said UK passports should be made here. Labour has endorsed criticism of the government awarding the deal to Gemalto. Home Office Minister Caroline Nokes said the deal offered value for money. Ministers were warned the cheapest is not necessarily the best today amid a storm over the awarding of a contract for UK passports to a Franco-Dutch firm. Shadow Home Secretary Diane Abbott said British passports should be made in the UK, citing concerns over security and protection of jobs. Gemalto is set to win the deal to make the next generation of British passports over northeast firm De La Rue. Labour has led calls for the government to rethink its decision to award the contract overseas, with Shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer also criticising the move. Home Office Minister Caroline Nokes insisted today the continental firm would cost taxpayers £120 million less over the course of the contract. She told MPs the firm was printing blank passports only, meaning no sensitive data would be sent across the channel. More than 125,000 Daily Mail and Mail-in line readers have signed a petition demanding a rethink. Ms. Abbott said the government could not be allowed to hide behind EU procurement rules. She warned ministers must take responsibility for the potential fallout this may have on workers, their families, the community and their wider industrial strategy. She described the episode as a farce and called on ministers to re-examine the decision, adding, "Ministers have to understand that the cheapest is not necessarily the best." Answering an urgent question in the Commons, Ms. Nokes said all passports will continue to have personal data added to them in the UK, adding that robust processes established over a number of years have determined that manufacturing passports overseas presents no security concerns. She said, under the current contract, up to 20% of blank passports are produced in Europe. There is no reason why overseas production should not continue in the future, and as such, a national security waiver could not apply. Conservative Brexiteer Jacob Rees-Mogg said he was concerned for the De La Rue plant in Bathford, in his northeast Somerset constituency, which he said produces the very high-quality security paper used in Chinese passports, among others. He asked, "I wondered if it would be possible for the Franco-Dutch consortium to be able to buy their secure paper from Somerset, which would, of course, be De La Rue paper and of very high quality." Tory Brexiteer Peterbone said French people will rise up and want to leave the EU when they see the new passports, which he described as a symbol of freedom and independence. Conservative former cabinet minister Ken Clarke said there has been a slightly childlike jingoistic element to the debate over passports from the moment it began, including on the colour. He described De La Rue as a very successful British company which wins fair, international, tendered contracts and said, "When we negotiate trade agreements, we will be pressing other countries to open up their public procurement processes to genuine, fair, international competition." And it'd be totally ridiculous to abandon that principle now in order to give in to constituency pressures, which I understand, and otherwise nationalist nonsense which ought to be ignored. Ms. Nokes said Mr. Clarke was absolutely right to highlight the UK's desire to be a global, outward-looking trading nation, adding, "The reality is in a fair procurement process we had to look at quality, security and indeed price, and this was the contract that provided the best value on all counts." Shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir claimed yesterday the decision to send passport production overseas underlined what was wrong with Brexit. He told ITV, "Well look, I think the passport is such an important issue, of course it should be a British company. I think the story of the passport sums up the government's approach really to Brexit. It starts by saying that it's going to be blue, then it's not going to be blue, starts saying it's going to be the UK and now it's France. It's this sort of over-promising and under-delivering which for me absolutely categorizes year one of negotiations." Former Cabinet Minister Priti Patel called the decision a national humiliation. However, it is expected that the move will save the British taxpayer £120 million over the lifetime of the contract.